would like to welcome you on behalf of Imani to this afternoon's program. The theme is access to affordable energy to support economic growth and job creation in Ghana. And we've invited all of you here to share your thoughts and insights in the industry so that we can chart a better way forward as we strive to develop Ghana. We shall begin with opening remarks by the president of Imani, Mr. Franklin Kujo. But before he does that, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of the Deputy Minister for Energy of the Republic of Ghana. He's also the MP for Sekondi, Honorable Andrew Ejapa-Mensah. Please give him a hand. We also have our key panelists and invited guests. As we go along, I shall duly acknowledge them. And I'd also like to say a big thank you to all of you for showing up. We know COVID-19 is still here. The Delta variant is here. And because of that, a lot of people don't want to step out. So for taking the risk to be here to join this conversation, we say a big thank you for coming. As much as possible, let's try to adhere to the protocols. Let's keep all our masks on. And let's have a great afternoon. So ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mr. Franklin Kujo, the president of Imani. He's going to give us the opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kojo. Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Minister, my own good brother, Honorable Andrew Ejapa-Mensah. I know there are other dignitaries here. I will just observe the protocol and say welcome everyone. So over the weekend, actually was it the weekend? 2 days ago, my Vice President, Senior Vice President, myself and the other musketeers at Imani, we're having the conversations about energy. And I remember Kofi Bento vividly saying that there are weightier energy matters before the current ministry. And the minister and his deputy, I'm sure Honorable Mensah, you'd agree, just about settling in. But as we know, from oil, gas, and even now nuclear energy as well. Kofi, you're a big fan of nuclear energy, aren't you? Yeah, and so I was going to say that while these matters are weightier and the ministry is settling in to deal with them, partly because they've been enhanced by COVID, it looks as if there are highly politicized issues that Ghanaians are seized with daily, which is essentially electricity. And it's either there's doomsaw or there's no doomsaw. I suspect that when the minister came into office, not that I suspect, actually it's the case. When the minister came into office a few weeks or months, he was met with this harsh reality that if you play with the people's power, you play with your position. I think one of the things he did was to tell the truth about the sector and the challenges that there are. And I think that stabilized a bit. He's managed to weather the storm. But as we all know, there are weightier issues regarding access to power than just the availability of power, which is also the affordability of power, which is essentially why we are here today, to have a conversation about how affordability of power, especially impacts on individual incomes as well as businesses, which is why we chose the theme, as you've seen in your individual letters, and as has been beamed here as well. So this afternoon's conversation is part of a number of reform dialogues that we've been having together with GIZ. GIZ has been the main sponsor. And Richard and Ishon, thanks for your support. I think we don't have to end it this year. We have to continue the conversation next year because there are many, many reform issues to discuss. So we are very grateful that they have been part of this enterprise to discuss basically the investment climate in Ghana. And we've had a number of conversations from COVID, how the challenges and opportunities COVID presented, to the business environment, the taxation systems in the country. We've even talked about the Africa Continental Free Trade Area and how Ghanaian businesses can take advantage of the new trade mantra. There are other conversations that we'll be having, but today just permit me to welcome you all to this dialogue and have a fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we shall have the keynote address. Initially, Both the minister and the deputy minister were supposed to be here, but about 5 to 10 minutes before the event, the minister had to attend an emergency. But we all know that the minister and the deputy are committed to the sector, and they will never miss an opportunity to have conversations with the industry. So the deputy, luckily, is here. The emergency didn't pull him along, and he's going to represent the minister to give us a keynote address. He's somebody most of us know. If you're in the sector, you know him. He's the MP for 2nd D. He's a key figure in the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. He's served Ghana in different areas, in the private sector and in the public sector. And he's now the co-captain to drive Ghana into the next phase of our development by ensuring energy security. Please help me welcome the Honorable Andrew Ejapa-Mensah to give us a keynote address.
Good afternoon. Mr. Chairman, my very good friend, the President of Imani Africa, Franklin Kujo, Senior Vice President of Imani, media personnel present, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, I bring you warm greetings from the Ministry of Energy. I am myself particularly happy to join you this afternoon for this Reform Dialogue series, especially because I am an ardent follower of the work that Imani does in the public policy space. More importantly, I also bring you greetings and best wishes from the Honorable Matthew Opoku Prempeh, MP, who, as Minister for Energy, is spearheading His Excellency the President's vision of providing reliable and affordable power to drive the industrialization agenda of his government. The Honorable Minister indeed agreed to be here this afternoon. Unfortunately, an urgent matter requiring him to be at the Jubilee House, the seat of our nation's presidency, has made it impossible for him to be here this afternoon. He extends his most sincere apologies and his inability to attend and hopes that this event is successful. I'll now proceed to read Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh's prepared speech for the occasion. Mr. Chairman, I'm delighted to be part of the 4th Reform Dialogue series on the theme, Access to Affordable Energy in Support of Economic Growth and Job Creation in Ghana. Your choice of theme on this occasion is appropriate and demonstrates our shared commitment to the growth and development of Ghana through the provision of clean and affordable electricity. I wish to commend Imani and the GIZ for organizing this Reform Dialogue series. We at the Ministry of Energy shall endeavor to avail ourselves in deepening the conversation further in respect of access to affordable energy to support economic growth and job creation in Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, energy access remains a key development constraint. A recent report by the Climate Investment Fund showed that nearly 1 billion people worldwide still do not have access to electricity, and about 2.7 billion people lack access to clean cooking facilities. Effective access is further complicated by affordability constraints that prevent households in the lower income tiers from accessing electricity. Ladies and gentlemen, access to adequate, affordable, reliable, and sustainable energy is critical for economic and social development of this country. And electricity will continue to remain an important driver for industrialization and social transformation due to its numerous benefits. It would be appropriate to first of all identify the key factors that currently make access to energy unaffordable in Ghana. One can talk of the cost of power generation, coupled with the huge cost of excess capacity that we are paying annually. With the current power distribution losses in the range of about 27%, one can definitely not talk about affordable energy to support economic development. Furthermore, our current tariff structure does not favor industrialization. These are just a few of the constraining factors. Mr. Chairman, the National Electrification Scheme was instituted in 1989 as government's principal instrument to achieve the policy of extending electricity to all parts of the country over a 30-year period from 1990 to 2020. The goals and objectives of the scheme were and remain: 1, to reduce poverty, especially in rural areas; 2, to increase the overall socio-economic development of the nation; 3, to increase people's standard of living, especially those in rural areas; 4, create small to medium-scale industries in rural areas; 5, enhance activities in other sectors of the economy, such as agriculture, health, education, tourism, etc. And 6, create jobs in the rural areas and thus reducing the rate of rural to urban migration. Ladies and gentlemen, access to electricity in Ghana by way of the population has increased from about 15% at inception of the NES to the current level of 85.17%. One thing that has sustained the momentum of the scheme is the commitment of successive governments towards providing the needed support for implementation. The current government, consistent with the momentum, has indicated its commitment towards the achievement of universal access to electricity by end 2024. We have therefore come up with a number of strategies to meet this target. As the sector minister, I have the responsibility to deal with the challenges of affecting the provision of sustainable energy for the economic development of our country, and I would like to discuss a number of measures we are putting in place to resolve them. Generation. On the power generation front, whilst we are working collaboratively with key stakeholders to reduce the uncompetitive capacity charges through ongoing renegotiation of power purchase agreements, we have decided going forward to do away with the existing take-or-pay arrangements to a more favorable take-and-pay arrangement looking at our current circumstances. Distribution. To deal with the power distribution issues, government is considering options of reforming the subsector. Whilst the private sector participation in ECG could not materialize as expected, leading to the termination of the transaction arrangements with Power Distribution Service, PDS, we are looking at a phased approach of private sector participation, commencing with the retail end of the distribution business. The introduction of PSP in the electricity retail business is expected to achieve the following benefits: increase revenue collection rates, decrease commercial distribution system losses, improve customer service, and provide lower financial barriers to local participation. At the appropriate time, we would come out with the fine details so that we can all engage on discussing the way forward. Tariff structure. As I indicated earlier, the current tariff structure does not favor accelerated industrialization. The government is therefore committed to improving the competitiveness of Ghanaian businesses by making electricity tariffs available to businesses and also encouraging consumption of grid power to mitigate the cost of excess capacity in the sector. Under the current structure, non-residential customers are being encouraged to leave the grid, which is resulting in loss of revenue for the sector. End-user electricity and fuel tariffs for the commercial and industrial sectors are relatively expensive when compared to tariffs in other West African nations. Against this background, the Ministry of Energy is looking at special industrial tariffs for the sale of electricity and natural gas to strategic industries such as iron and steel, bauxite and aluminium, fertilizer, ceramics, amongst others. It is expected that these tariff reforms would support national development objectives such as increased tax revenue, industrialization, and employment creation in accordance with government Ghana Beyond Aid program. Commitment to industrialization. Ladies and gentlemen, the Nana Akufo-Addo administration is committed to accelerating the industrial drive of the country. Some of the initiatives include, but are not limited to, the National Industrial Revitalization Program, which seeks to provide stimulus incentives to economically viable by financially distressed companies. The One District, One Factory initiative, which is a well-thought-through policy that is geared towards decentralization of industrial development for fair and equitable growth in every part of the country. And C, strategic anchor industries intended to position Ghana's industrial landscape around certain industrial patterns and products within the framework of industrial parks and the special economic zones, amongst others. Upgrading existing infrastructure. Ladies and gentlemen, whilst we make efforts towards the provision of sustainable energy for economic development, one must not lose sight of the needed upgrade of the existing infrastructure. This is to guarantee a firm base load supply to underpin the industrialization process. The ongoing transmission upgrade works are therefore aimed at making our energy supply reliable and sustainable into the future. We shall continue to make the necessary investment, particularly in transmission and distribution, to improve the reliability of power supply. A firm base load supply would also lead to the integration of renewable energy. Ovi, I hear that's your passion. Into the network, since any variability in RE could be compensated for within the stable network. Mr. Chairman, we are deploying a number of strategies, including renewable energy, multi-grid electrification for islands and lakeside communities, as well as standalone solar home systems for sparsely populated settlements where it is difficult to extend the national electricity grid. We are also pursuing a renewable energy master plan in order to meet our sustainable development goals by 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, we are equally paying attention to energy access for cooking. Our goal is to reach 50% LPG penetration and reduce the dependency on biomass in the form of firewood and charcoal significantly to 30% by 2030. The cylinder recirculation model and the promotion of 500,000 improved charcoal cook stoves under the Stoves for Carbon scheme are being implemented by the Ministry of Energy. In all these, local content is key to the delivery of such interventions. Currently, we are undertaking a study with funding from the World Bank to develop a clean cooking strategy and investment prospectus for Ghana. This will drive investment in the sector and help us achieve our goals. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude my remarks, I wish to note that access to affordable energy in support of economic growth and job creation in Ghana can only be achieved with a sound and effective energy policy. We have therefore reviewed the energy policy of 2010 and have come up with an updated version taking into consideration unforeseen challenges and changes in global trends. We are about seeking cabinet approval for its implementation. Let me reiterate the fact that this government is committed to fixing the current energy challenges, namely dealing with the current power issues, facilitating additional oil finds, to make more and cheaper gas available to key industries, and to restore the financial health of the sector as soon as possible. This is to keep the industrialization drive alive and create the needed jobs for the citizenry. I remain firm in my conviction that President Akufo-Addo's vision of a robust, affordable, dependable energy sector as a catalyst for propelling economic and industrial growth is achievable. I believe that working together towards a common purpose in the marketplace of ideas, we shall achieve that and improve the lives of our people. Let us keep the conversation alive. Thank you, and may God bless us all.
Ladies and gentlemen, please help me thank the Honorable Minister again for the speech and his time. At this point, we are getting into the panel discussion. We have about 6 discussants, and technically we are all discussants, but those 6 will lead the discussions, and then all of us will get a chance to also speak at the right time. Now, the discussions are going to be based or centered around 4 themes, and all these run through the speech by the minister. He spoke about reliability of power supply, cost of power. He mentioned renewable energy. He mentioned standalone solar home projects. He mentioned the energy policy and the supply plan. Now, this afternoon's panel discussion will be looking at creative ways of improving power reliability and reducing electricity tariffs. We'll be examining ways of reducing the persistent retail electricity losses and excess capacity charges, all that the minister mentioned. We'll be exploring creative ways of increasing renewable energy uptake from the current less than 1%. And we also examine gas supply issues because 89% of thermal plants depend on natural gas as their primary source of fuel. So gas has become very important when it comes to our energy supply issues. Now, to help us discuss this, we have Mr. Charles Jemfi Ofori. Charles is currently a policy lead on climate change and energy transition at the Africa Center for Energy Policy. He's worked on a lot of projects, and he's currently a final year doctoral student at the Department of Finance, University of Ghana Business School. Charles, welcome to the discussion. We also have one person whose name, if you mention in certain circles, reminds people of skills, goals, free kicks, and some over the bars. Kojo Poku was a very popular footballer, made footballers happy and sad sometimes. But this Kojo Poku is the Executive Director, Institute for Energy Policies and Research. He's worked in oil and gas as the CEO of Gasop Oil Limited, an upstream exploration company. He's also involved in the development of 3 mini hydro dams on the Ankobra River as a founder of Small Hydro Development Company. Kojo Poku, we are happy to have you. Welcome. Please help me welcome him. We also have the Senior Vice President of Imani Ghana, Mr. Kofi Bento, lawyer, public policy advocate, troublemaker to some extent. Yes, Honorable Mesa says yes, he's nodding to that. And an all-round smart and passionate Ghanaian. He's joining the conversation as well. Kofi, welcome. The Deputy Minister is also a discussant, the Honorable Andre Japamesa. He's also joining the conversation. Franklin Kujo is also joining the conversation. I see Professor Bob King and all of you also around. You are all part of the conversation, so I'll be coming to you for your thoughts. Now, since we largely know the problems with Ghana's energy sector, I think we'll just go straight into suggesting and recommending ways we can deal with them around the 4 themes we spoke about. And one of the key drivers for this government is the Obatampa project, which they seek to use to drive SME growth. And we all know that any country will grow if the SME sector is doing well. So I want to start with Charles. We are thinking about access to affordable energy to support economic growth. You have done a lot of work when it comes to investment for SMEs in Ghana and the challenges when it comes to power. So I want to give you the first word, and then I'll go around the tables. Charles.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. When it comes to access to energy, I think that you look at the various spectrum, the SME's perspective, naturally, you see a lot of challenges with regards to the availability or the access to reliable and then affordable energy. And we've seen a lot of challenges with regards to that, looking at paying for energy, or even the various situations that comes with the challenges with lights out and all the things that happens. And when you're looking at these things, sometimes the option for SMEs largely has to do with looking out for self-generation options, and mostly they go out for other options such as generators and not really much of renewable energy generation in terms of their own access to self-generation options. So now we really need to have the conversation towards providing secured and reliable energy generation. And just as the minister indicated in his keynote address, access to power is important for us to drive the industrialization agenda. Access to power is important to drive the 1D1F agenda. And it's important for us all if we really want to get into the situation of sustainable development. So what are the options available? And that is what I believe that this gathering seeks to generate, and this gathering seeks to really come up with. So what are the options available for us? What should governments be doing when it comes to security of supply, when it comes to affordability of energy, when it comes to the reliability of energy, when it comes to even the fuel that is required for energy generation? What are the options for government? And I believe that by the time we leave this place, we will find such answers to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charles. You are asking the questions, and so I expect you to give me more answers. So I'm not going to move to Kofi yet. ASEP did a brilliant job with GIZ, and you produced this document, which has a lot of suggestions on the way forward. So I'm throwing your questions back at you. What are the options available, and what must we do based on the research you've done?
So based on our research with GIZ, we looked out for looking at the barriers and then the challenges to renewable energy generation, because we saw that available and then affordable supply of electricity was a problem. And the options for SMEs was largely self-generation options. And diesel generation options really provided some level of challenges. We can even talk about the environmental situations and all the other challenges that depends on the cost of fuel procurement and all that. So we looked at whether renewable energy generation is another option that will be better for SMEs, either even to consider switching from the conventional energy generation towards a greener, a more environmental friendly, and a more reliable source of energy generation. And in looking at that, we found a lot of barriers and a lot of opportunities. Some of the barriers include financial challenges, regulatory challenges, issues that relate to the knowledge of the renewable energy sector and then the technologies in itself, and then also market-related issues, that is the unavailability of even a market for such renewable energy companies to really get into. In dealing with these challenges, we set out to understand that regulation is a very important thing to consider when it comes to renewable energy generation and even renewable energy penetration. We have a code for net metering. We have the guidelines available, but the operationalization of it has been a challenge. Although government has the codes and everything in place, we do not see that commitment for such operationalization to happen. So that incentive for people to really get into that space is limited. And then we also have financial issues. SMEs not able to secure the needed finance. The green financing options in the country is quite low. And when it comes to knowledge, when it comes to awareness creation, there are so many, for want of a better word, we would say conspiracy theories regarding renewable energy penetration. People begin to talk about the issue as a Western agenda, or renewable energy not being able to provide base load, or renewable energy being, we should pollute more to industrialize because the West had already polluted. But a good and a careful approach towards this should be that the transition for us has come to us, it has come to stay, and how do we optimize and really generate the benefits that has to do with renewable energy generation. And if you sit down to look at the long-term cost and the benefits, which SMEs do not really know, you see that the long-term benefits with regards to such generation options is higher than even the cost. And that means that the net benefits for transitioning whether a full-scale transition or a partial-scale transitioning is high. So the option of government, the option of SMEs is, for government, for instance, is to really provide such a friendly environment for the suppliers, retailers, and those people who are into renewable energy supply and sale and after-sale services to really work and thrive. And also for them to also create the needed environment to really create awareness for people to understand what the benefits are, what are the benefits for being environmentally friendly within your business, and provide the needed market and the needed financial options for SMEs to thrive when it comes to these things.
Thank you, Charles, for your thoughts there. I can see Madam Dorothy Gordon with the face masks. Usually when you go out, you hardly, but the hair, the face, and the look she gave me earlier made me know that it's her. I remember that look from when we had the conversation on national IDs about 6 years ago at the World Bank. Your inputs when you thought we were being too slow with the implementation. Madam Gordon, welcome. I know you have a lot of thoughts to share on this, so I'll be coming to you as well for your input. But let me come to you, Kojopoku. Charles has started us off with the renewable energy bit with respect to SMEs. But we know that when it comes to reliability of power supply, it's largely to do with the general mix. How do we approach our power issues going forward?
Well, thank you very much. I think the key word that has always been buzzed around is affordability and reliability. But then one of the key issues for me is when you come to SMEs, is where they are situated. Many a times, government has tried to maybe look at targeting relief for small, medium companies. But then we have a situation where most SMEs are situated in residential areas. And there need to be a lot of education to go to SMEs when they are acquiring the meter for their businesses. Now, if most people will use the house meter or the residential meter, let me put it that way, to start a business, it's a small scale business. So if government is targeting relief for SME, it will not go to a residential customer. It will go to industrial, which is what it's supposed to go for. But because these people are now not educated in the sense of what benefits will come to them in the long run when they acquire these meters, if government is to target this relief, because unless we have reliable and affordable power, really and truly, we are not moving forward. Because if you look at the Compact 2, which didn't really go a long way, the key issue that it wanted to address was that affordability and reliability. But we need to go a long way to do this level of education to the people starting up SMEs that, look, if you are to get a meter for your business, do well to register as an SME. Don't be using the residential code to register your business. The second part of it is when it comes to renewable, and my brother said that there is these things where companies will say that, look, renewable can be used as a base load. It can't. Honestly, it's difficult to use just renewable as a base load. You will need other thermal interventions to let renewable to be able to operate. You would have your intermittency in renewables. So we would have to have a combination. I have always said that we can think global and act local. The Europeans have done their bit. They've done well, fine. They can look at the 2030 zero carbon emission, but let Ghana set our own goals for our zero emissions. We cannot be driven to go by the European timetable. If we do that, the problem is that we will be leapfrogging, and in so doing, we might end up at a destination that we wouldn't be too sure because we don't know how we got there. They got there gradually. So I think for affordable power, the government has not helped us, and my brother, the minister, is here. In the past, they've negotiated high fuel prices, in terms of gas, okay? If you are looking at affordable power, and if that's what the thinking is, you need to make sure that what goes into it, the ingredients are cheaper. So we need to have cheap gas. Our own gas, which we buy from ENI, as we all know, is more than what we get from N-gas in Nigeria. But in the long term, I think the government focus is to be able to reduce the cost of the gas component which goes into our thermal plants, to be able to make sure that all the power that we are getting, if you look at Akosombo, which is 3 cents more or less because we've amortized Akosombo, most of the thermal plants that we have, none of them is less than 10 cents if you put in the cost of the fuel, okay? So it becomes a problem when you're looking at VALCO to work. VALCO can only work at 3.5 cents. So how do you now get VALCO to work when your cheapest in the whole 14 or 13 thermal plants that we have, none of them with the fuel is less than 10 cents. That means you can't give any of that to VALCO. You need to give the cheaper hydro to VALCO, then residential, which is not the good thing, but then the more brower will have to pay more because most of the cheaper power is being given to VALCO. So for me, there is a balancing act that government has to do, and I think I will leave it there for now.
Kojo, thank you very much. You've touched on 4 key areas: gas, thinking global, and acting locally, which is something a lot of people in the sustainability space are debating. Should we go with Agenda 2030? Should we tweak the African Union's Agenda 2063? Or we should have our own Ghana agenda, whatever, based on our needs and based on what is available? And that SMEs must also strategically position themselves to enable proper targeting when reliefs are being given out by the government. I think these are key. I'll come to you, Kofi, for your initial thoughts. And
Right, so initial thoughts. I tried to focus on the topic. It says affordable energy to support economic growth and job creation. So many things to weave through, but if we are going to focus it, my initial thoughts would be that if we are talking about energy in terms of affordability, we need to appreciate what are the other options to affordability. In energy economics, energy availability is always more important than affordability. And energy reliability is always more important than affordability. So much as affordability may be interesting because we're in a poor country, I want to first make the point that it does not make any difference to somebody who does not have availability and reliability, whether they are rich or poor. So we agree with affordability, but those two things must be clear. Then we also have to appreciate that if we are talking about affordable energy, we wrote a paper, Imani wrote a paper back in 2009, and I keep referring to it. It was published in March 2010. And if you Google it, I think you'll find it, What Our Oil Cannot Do For Us. And we made the point about gas. Why does it come up again? There is no way you can discuss energy affordability in this economy without dealing with gas. And when it comes to gas, I think that I see gas in 2 ways. I call them big gas and small gas. My point is, if we don't deal with these issues around big gas and small gas, we will not be dealing with issues about affordability. And I would suggest to this discussion that maybe we should focus more on that so that we can use the time more profitably. Big gas. Big gas is national level gas, gas for electricity. All right? And in the paper we wrote, we actually made the point that it is possible and desirable for Ghana to convert our economy to a gas-driven economy because we do have gas. Now, we have made a mess with gas. And unfortunately, so far, there is no clear way in terms of dealing with that mess. The mess is the ENI agreement we've had with gas. It's totally lopsided on behalf of ENI. And unfortunately, the record will show that this government has not shown significant commitment nor competence in dealing with those issues. Not just that, but a number of other issues. And the record will show, I don't know what has happened with whether we are renegotiating the ENI gas or not, and what we are doing in terms of our gas economy. The West Africa gas pipeline, what is going on? I don't see much commitment, I don't see much competence in dealing with that. And if you talk about energy, gas again, big gas, is gas for electricity. Okay, again, you have the ECG situation. And my brother Mesa is here, I hope he can enlighten us on this. PDS, or the failure of PDS, should not be the end of the concept of ECG privatization. So what is happening after the botched PDS? And again, the records will show that the government has not shown sufficient commitment and competence in dealing with these issues. We had $500 million which we lost, and PDS was a mess, and we don't know what is going on in terms of that. You can't talk about affordable energy in this country and leave out ECG. It's not possible. And you can't talk about affordable electricity and leave out gas. It's not possible. So we really need to deal with that. And then there is the problem that my brother Mesa spoke about. These take and pay agreements, which clearly are not good for us in terms of the cost and benefit. But again, if you look at the record, the commitment to deal with that seemed to be there, but the competence is not there. That's how we've ended up with $174 million of judgment debt, because we just messed up the renegotiation or whatever it is and canceled things wrongly. Now we are left with worse off. So I worry about these things. I mean, are we going to keep doing this? Are we going to renegotiate those things? We can't talk about affordable energy if we are going to get judgment debts in those areas. Then, so this is big gas, gas for electricity, gas for municipal, other things. And there's a lot to talk about that, but I'll keep it there for now. And then there is small gas. And then when you talk about affordability, small gas is domestic gas. Small gas is gas for vehicles, all right? Small gas is gas for restaurants, all right? I mean, small businesses. And look, almost any equipment can be powered through gas, okay, either directly or indirectly. So when you talk about, affordable gas, there's a lot to say about that. But let's just take the obvious one. Take domestic gas. We had a big blowout at Hacho. It's been over 4 years now. There was a national level outcry, and you had a situation where the government committed to the cylinder recirculation model to try and reduce these things. Thankfully, we've not had another big blowout. But the record will show again that this government has not shown much commitment or competence in terms of rolling out CRM. Why should it take us 5 years? Full disclosure, I'm on the committee for the CRM rollout, and I've announced that I'm going to resign. Why? Because I am not happy with the progress. I don't see any reason why we should take 5 years to roll out CRM. So if we are talking about affordable gas and we can't do a simple thing like CRM, where is the commitment? Where is the competence? Okay. And when you talk about small gas also, we have not clarified what we are going to do with these auto gas users. We've treated them as if they are bandits and outlaws and tried to punish them for using auto gas. We should treat them as if auto gas was a solution, because it's better for the environment, it's cheaper, and if we can convert our vehicles and buses also to gas-powered systems, especially when we have gas, okay, it will be better for all of us. The point is, we have not done the hard work to have that conversion done. So small gas, I don't see where we are going with that. Then you come to the restaurants and co. They are struggling like the rest of us on the issues of gas, okay? So even just taking big gas and small gas, okay, I think we have a lot to answer. And if you leave it to me, I'll say we should discuss just that, because that is where we will deal with the issues of affordable energy to support economic growth and job creation. It's all in these small business areas and that kind of thing. I'll pause here.
Thank you, Kofi. And I think that... Thank you, Kofi. Your initial thoughts are pushing me in the direction I wanted to go earlier. Honorable Mesa, if you have any reactions, you can make them now. If you don't and you want us to go around so that you react to some of the things.
No, it's fine. I mean, useful feedback from where I sit. And on the issue of the E&I gas renegotiation, my understanding is that the position that government took was to tie the Springfield unitization with the E&I gas renegotiation, because obviously if the unitization was going on, then that would have forced the parties to come to the table, and that would have led to some renegotiation of the figures. Indeed, when my name was mentioned, I had the privilege of attending meetings with the substantive minister, and in one of the presentations that E&I did, without any prompting, they themselves recognized that the gas price that they were selling to Ghana was too high. And so they provided some document that suggested that if we extend the tenure of the agreement, and GMPC were prepared to waive some of their take in the gas, the revenue to GMPC. That in itself could lead to a reduction of the price by about half. So rest assured, we are working on that. Of course, now they've made some new discovery in Block 4 that they have announced. The expectation is that when they come for the presentation of their plan of development, the government was going to use that as an opportunity to renegotiate the entire gas price under the Sankofa transaction, and that would obviously impact the price of electricity that we all pay. PDS, yes, I agree with you, and that clearly is the position of the ministry, that the failure of the PDS transaction should not be the end of private sector participation in electricity distribution. Indeed, ECG themselves have piloted some program in Kumasi, Ashanti region, special business units. And so we are looking at concessioning based on the special business units model that ECG themselves have piloted to segment ECG into blocks where we give concessions to private sector to manage the last mile in that space. And I'm sure that at the appropriate time, like I indicated, we're going to provide the details for people to, yes, I'm also disappointed that the cylinder recirculation model hasn't been rolled out fully. But of course, there are some industry, and I'm sure Kojo is very much aware. I recall the last time that the CSOs attended the ministry, we had some conversation in that regard. There are sector players that have issues. And so all that is being, I'm sure you yourself, as you indicated on the committee, you should be aware. Yes, it's been too slow, but my minister is in a hurry. And I'm sure that by the close of the year, we'll see clear indication of where we are going with the cylinder recirculation, because we really don't have a choice than to get it done, and done as quickly as we can. Of course, I don't know whether you are aware that very recently some electric vehicle was presented to the ministry by Hyundai. Clearly, renewable energy to fuel our vehicles is the way to go. And so the conversion of the vehicles to auto gas would be pursued. I'm aware that because of the LNG project that government has signed on to, there's a network of distribution lines that are being rolled out in Tema. Some proposals have come in for CNG to power vehicles, and that is also being pursued. And so in the fullness of time, I'm sure that we'll get closure on all of these, so that what we all aspire to achieve, affordable, reliable power to drive industrialization, would be achieved shortly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mesa, but I'm still staying on gas. 89% of thermal plants depend on natural gas as a primary source of fuel. This is from the 2021 Electricity Supply Plan of the Energy Commission. We are also told that Bui is suffering. Bui is not getting enough water, so Bui may not be as dependable as it's been over the past 3 years. So we need to look at the gas space very well. So I'm coming to you, Kojo. You have worked on mega projects and small hydro projects as well, and you have a general overview of the mix. How do we approach, the minister has given us what the government is doing, but realistically, how do we approach our gas problem, both for national energy production by the thermal plants, domestic use? For example, should we visit the conversation about biogas for homes and schools that started about 5 years ago, which we didn't take up? So I like that. So I'll start with you, Kojo. How do we really deal with this gas issue?
Okay,
what's the way forward, your thoughts?
When the West African gas pipeline was built, the West African gas pipeline was the primary pipeline. The secondary pipeline was a network of gas pipelines within Tema Industrial Enclave, and the third wave would have been the Takoradi Business Enclave, a network of gas. The whole idea was that when the gas comes in, it was not only to power big generational, or let's say big gencos, but it was also to go to some of the industrial companies that were prepared to buy their own boilers to have their own self-generating electricity. The pipe, the right-of-way was acquired. The whole network was drawn out. Even some companies, if I'm not mistaken, acquired some initial investment in preparation to receive gas from the West African gas pipeline for the second phase of the project. Along the line, government changed, and I think the whole thing fell apart. And the second phase of the West African gas pipeline post-President Kufuor's regime basically fell on the wayside. Gas, as my brother Kofi said, is very key and essential. That is why I had the opportunity when this whole judgment debt issue came up, and I was with Dr. Kwame Donko on one show, and I told him that, look, you can't honestly convince me that all the negotiation you did with gas and the PPA signed was to give Ghanaians reliable, affordable power, because then you did the wrong thing. As Kofi said, unless gas prices are very low, we can't have cheaper electricity, because the investment into the generating plant, and you mentioned hydro, we are trying to build 3 mini hydros on the Ankobra. We've done various work, done the hydrology and all that. When there was the regime of feed-in tariff, we put a feed-in tariff into our economics and realized that we might need a little bit above, at that time, about 2015, we might need around 13 cents, 14 cents to be able to build with fresh capital in the interest that we borrow to build maybe a 36 megawatt plant at Heman, which is the south part of the Ankobra River. But at that time, the feed-in tariff for mini hydros was about, I think, 11 cents. And PULC and Energy Commission and the ministry will not give us anything more. The point is, you need to give a little bit more for some of these new infrastructure projects. I mean, when Akosombo was built, I'm sure everybody knows the history. Kaiser came in, built the Valco plant, blah, 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 and that's how Akosombo was able to be built. Without any proper offtake or somebody paying for the cost of the infrastructure, we can never have some of these new plants coming on board. And if now, the way this whole thing has been structured is that there's no more feed-in tariff. They've changed the law to make a build authority the operator's government representative. So now, if I want to develop, as a private company, want to develop Ankobra, I need to go to Build Authority to get Build to buy into the project I want to build. Meanwhile, Build Authority is my competitor. Ghana Water Resource Authority are the ones that the law gives the water bodies to, and they license me to be able to use the water. They also license Build Authority to use the water that they are using. But now, there's a law that has now been changed that now says that I have to go to Build Authority for them to now appreciate, understand, and buy into my project before I can build mini hydros in the western, on any of the western rivers. So the issue with all the cost and gas, the immediate solution is the gas that we have, because that one we can just go straight up, negotiate it down to very cheap, and then get affordable power. In the long term, government will have to basically give a little bit more to people like us to be able to build the mini hydros, which will now in the long term will be a bit cheaper.
So working with your competitor as your regulator really is not doing you any good when it comes to your space.
Look at what is happening now. BU is not doing well. BU is not having any water in his reserve, so he doesn't have the money to even talk to me as an investor or somebody who wants to partner, because he has his own problems. So now, with that law being changed, the Renewable Energy Bill Act was changed just last year, and BU Authorities Act was changed last year to be able to now get them to do this, play in this space. Some of us fought against it, but obviously the ministry thought otherwise, and that's what they've done. So now, if BU Authority does not like your project or does not feel that they can participate in it, you can do that project.
Let me come to you, Charles. What do we do with the gas sector? Just press. Good.
Sure, it's working now.
So what we see with the gas sector is primarily that the power sector is one of the main sectors that absorb the gas that we have in this country, and the need for us to ensure that locally we are able to exhaust our domestic gas, and the decisions of governments and their priorities are very critical in this phase. How do we ensure that the gas that is coming from our domestic fields, from the Jubilee N10 and then the OCTP gas, and even the new discoveries that are coming up, how do we ensure that locally we are able to consume them before even thinking about other places? Now there is, on air, we hear a lot of government decisions surrounding bringing in new forms of import in the form of liquefied natural gas options, which has been largely been criticized, but you see the action of government still as a way to continue to consider the option of bringing in these gases. And if you look at the economics, if you look at the costs and then the benefits, you realize that if we do not exhaust our domestic gas for the power sector and even considering it for industrial utilization, then bringing in new imports with some of the reasons that they are giving in the terms of Nigeria gas is not reliable, domestic gas from OCTP is quite expensive, LNG is quite cheaper. But if you look at the model that was used to derive the LNG gas prices, which is modeled after the price of crude oil, you realize that for LNG to be cheaper than even Nigerian gas, the price of oil has to fall to about $32 per barrel. And for LNG to be cheaper than Sankofa gas, the price of oil has to fall to about $45 per barrel. And if you look at the current outlook for crude oil prices, hovering around between $60 to $70, and looking at the outlook in terms of how the price of oil is going to be in the short to medium term, then bringing in such another gas option will not be economically viable for Ghana to really support our agenda, affordability and industrialization agenda. So what we really need to look at to ensure how best we can optimize the utilization of our gas, looking at the infrastructure that we have. We have the WACP that has a huge capacity of about 450 MMscf. Currently, we are supplying about between 60 to 70 from Nigeria. And if you look at the contract volume from Nigeria, it was about 120 MMscf, which, because of age-old issues regarding the inability of payment defaults and also certain situations that cause disruptions in the pipeline, we have provided reasons as to the unreliability in supply from Nigeria. But we can show that supply from Nigeria is now becoming more and more reliable. So instead of us deciding to suppress these gas from Nigeria and then our own gas utilization, perhaps we should consider optimizing them rather than really sourcing gas from external sources in the form of liquefied natural gas, which is not going to bring in any solution to affordable supply of gas, but it's just going to compound the issues of cost buildup and then debt accumulation.
Thank you very much, Charles. I'll come to you, Kofi. You got us to start with this gas conversation, but we'll move with you from gas into the losses in transmission and distribution as well. So I'll take your final thoughts on the gas, way forward for gas. Then you move into how we can deal with the 25% transmission losses, because we are paying for that, and that also adds to the cost of power on the consumer. So your final thoughts on gas, and then hit Mesa more with
my final thoughts on gas. My dissertation in 1991 was on gas. And some of the things that in 1991 I mean, we're writing about and trying to push government to do. At the time, we're trying to get mass gas adoption, which happened. But then you have problems with supply, etc. Some of those issues since then still persist. And so for me, I don't think we are doing much in terms of gas. And I repeat, our governments have not shown much commitment. It's just been lip service. Now, on the specifics, I think that there is no excuse why we don't have CRM. Yes, I understand some of the issues that have been raised. None of them is a good enough reason why we don't have CRM. I mean, people are talking about if we have CRM, then their business is going to go away. Much as I understand that.
So if you buy CRM, you mean cylinder recirculation?
Cylinder recirculation model. A situation where you take a gas cylinder to a place and then you take another cylinder home. So nobody's filling and all those other things. And if somebody says, my business is going to go away because I fill gas, and for that reason, I am an impediment to going forward. If we did that, nobody would go anywhere. I always give the example of Africa Online. There were big IT companies in Ghana giving internet service. The telcos came and provided internet on your phone, and all of them just died. I'm not saying it's a nice thing if you are in that industry, but that should not be a way or a reason to stop anything. And I'm using that because it's the low-hanging fruit. Look, I'll be entirely disappointed if we don't get this thing done by the end of this year. So if you ask me, what do we do with gas? Let's double down on having CRM online and stop all these excuses. Then you get to some other low-hanging fruit. There is no good reason, not a single one, why secondary schools with 300 people, every day going through their daily bodily functions, okay, don't have biogas facilities, and then they have to buy gas. It doesn't make sense. You have gated communities coming up all over the place. It is part of what you do as part of, municipal authority issues, and say it is required, okay, because you have people doing this every day, all right? So that is something I also think there must be movement on. I heard Mr. Mesa talk about linking the issues of the ENI gas with the Springfield unitization. Springfield unitization is high-level, complex, convoluted, legal, technical, financial stuff, okay? And I think government must be quick on that, but I don't think it is that good to link that with gas, because we are doing gas every day, all right? So I think we should decouple them and try and deal with those issues going on. Look, the thing about West Africa gas pipeline, it's a fantastic idea, but there are too many points of failure, and it is not within our power to control it. I think Ghana must develop some sort of strategy which does not include West African gas pipeline as a key component. We should use them as an addition if we can, because we just don't control what happens with the WAP, okay? And it's possible for us, we have enough gas arrangements, weather exploration, etc., to be able to do better in terms of gas. You said now we should move from gas and go into
ECG. Now, we experienced a 5.87% growth in distribution losses last year.
Yes.
So you add it to the existing, we
Yes.
already have an average 21 to 25%, and last year we had a 5.8% growth.
Yes.
The government over the years has said they are working on this, but based on this, my assumption is that this 5.8% growth is extra cost that we are bearing.
Mm-hmm.
How do we deal with this? Because we've had investments, we've had conversations, and we don't see any improvement in that.
I remember there was a forum at Labadi Beach Hotel, how many months ago? And all of them were there. 3 months ago, all of them were there, and it's the only thing that was on my mind. And I come from a strategic point of view, not worrying too much about the technicals, because those are science issues. Those are engineering issues. Those are competencies that you should buy. And my point is this: even in West Africa, Ghana is a small country. So if we are looking at Africa, we are a very small country. And if you take worldwide arrangements, we are a very, very, very small country. Now, for the land size of Ghana, if anybody tells me, and I'm talking about Gridco, that they cannot string wires from the north to the south, all right, and do it in such a way that we don't lose 25% or so, it will never make sense to me. It simply means you don't know what you're doing, or somebody is not making you do it. And as far as I'm concerned, we should stop taking excuses. Look, I am at the point where if anybody gives me, well, I'm not at that position, but if anybody gave me a proposal that says I will be able to do this, I will shut down Gridco, I'll shut down everybody. It is not a good enough situation for us to countenance and give excuses of us. So if you ask me, how do we do it? You simply do it with leadership. Somebody must draw a line somewhere. It is engineering. You are stringing cables from the north of Ghana to the south, or from the south to the north, east and west, in a small country. In a small country. And we have excuses upon excuses upon excuses. If you check how much money we spent on this thing in the last 10 years, okay, and look, a few years back, GRIDCO was just a department in VRA. And they did a job. So look, it's excuses, it's procurement, it's corruption and incompetence. And we should stop taking the excuses and make sure they do the work. It's as simple as that.
Mr. Moderator, let me correct something small whilst we are educating everybody. I think the losses for transmission, which is where GRIDCO comes in, is 5.28%. The 26% is for distribution, and that one is made up of 10% technical and 16% commercial. So it's good that we put that in perspective. So the GRIDCO losses is 5.28%.
And how do we deal with that? And once you finish that, I open the floor for any other person.
Well,
we've touched on 4 areas.
I think you're looking at the bottleneck that is caused from lack of investment. I think GRIDCO themselves, as Kofi pointed out, we had a tit-a-tat with them some time ago, 3 months ago, when this whole power problem came up, and we were trying to understand why are we where we are. I think there was some investment that was to be done by GRIDCO from the France agency that was supposed to give them some monies, which is the Volta to Malam stringing of the 161 kV lines and the Kumasi Kintampo 330 kV lines. And that work not being done on time caused a lot of congestion and made their the transmission losses increase. I think the projection is that when these two projects are completed, they will go lower than the 5.something%. That's the transmission. For the distribution, it's a whole different ballgame. The old infrastructure which ECG has, and that is where we all agree that the private sector participation was very interesting. That about $500 million over 5 years, and then the ECG, the compact also investing money. We lost some of it, but some of it was came in. But if we are to put, let's say, $1 billion into the distribution network, that would go a long way to reduce the 10% technical losses that we have. The commercial losses, that one, no money can change that. People are employed, they take their salaries, all they do is not collect the money they are supposed to collect. So that one, I don't know how to solve that. Thank you.
Okay, I think that you said you don't know how we can fix that, but nobody can change that. I think somebody can change it when it comes to the commercial losses.
Well, look, people are paid every month. So my new minister is sitting here. For me, I think he should crack the whip. Because honestly, commercial losses doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
People are paid monthly, but they don't collect bills that they're supposed to collect. That one doesn't make sense.
So it means somebody can fix it. You said nobody can fix
well,
that.
I don't know. I said, I don't know how to fix it.
Just a minute on that.
I'll come
Just
to you.
1 minute on that.
Okay.
See, when PDS took over ECG, there was an immediate improvement in service. You call them, they come. And you clearly could see that there was a change in attitude. When PDS went out and ECG took back, it went straight back down again. It is not a real problem. It is a leadership issue.
Okay, thank you very much. So now the floor is open. This conversation is not just about the lead discussants. So there are microphones all around. I've got one also here. So you mention your name, you introduce yourself, and then you go ahead with your question or your comment.
Yes, so I'm very happy to be able to balance out the conversation. I'm Sherry Thompson. I'm also known as Mama Lou, Mamaloo. That's why I was so excited about biogas, because we build biogas, biosanitation, toilet facilities for schools. And he's right. Those kids go every day. You can pull that together. That poop gas is amazing. It's a better cooking gas, biogas is. It's good for security lighting. It's good for fertilizer. You've got a lot of stuff there in that poop. Yes, every poo deserves a loo. So there you go. There's a whole solution right there that needs to be looked at, especially for schools, because we still have schools that don't have toilets. So if we can go ahead and put that online, you have cooking gas for the school. We have pilots. You can go look at them if you need to. And that's a solution. Solution number 2, I'm sitting here with renewable energy, and to me, renewable energy is a solution, okay? So the next thing is to get solar at a level that people can afford. 2015, megawatt competition, I entered an appliance, a solar shade, and the company is Sunshade Energy. We won for Ghana for energy efficiency, and megawatt competition is a World Bank funded piece. We went to Barcelona for a 10-day study tour of smart cities. I came back, yay, Accra is gonna be a smart city, and I was ready. And then nothing. The more I talked, everybody said, laudable idea, laudable idea, laudable idea, laudable idea. And 6 years later, we're still looking for prototype development funding. So for me, if we have innovation in energy, and we do, we have young people that have amazing innovative ideas, we need to help them in that regard with R&D, research and development funding, okay? That way we can put our own solutions up front. We don't have to call people from abroad to come and solve our problems. We can actually solve our own problems. Our young people know how to do it. They just need to be given the money and the technical assistance to move those ideas forward.
So we
okay?
need to invest in SMEs.
In energy innovation.
Yes,
Energy innovation. Just put
Okay.
that down. Okay? So
Okay.
we got solution number 1, biogas, biosanitation, toilet facilities in the school, because poop gas, man, imagine young people just adding their energy, not only their energy, but their energy to the system. Amen?
Amen. It's
Good.
interesting you're talking about this. In my house, I have biogas, which is working
okay,
in the kitchen.
it works fine, doesn't it?
It works fine. Solar works fine. We upgrade. So it's a no-brainer. We have to go.
No-brainer. It is definitely a no-brainer.
Yeah. Let me go
So
to-
we had number 2, okay? And then number 3, because access to affordable, and I'm going to underline affordable, underline that. How does something become affordable? Well, the person has got to be able to buy it, okay? And I've always said that our energy, big energy people, oil and gas, should actually fund renewable energy. And here's how you all can figure out how to get us to be a part of that solution, the citizenry. List these companies, oil and gas companies, Cosmos, everybody that's in that industry, downline, upline, list them on the Ghana Stock Exchange so that we can buy stocks and be a part of their money system, their whole, they want money, they need money. We can actually put municipal bonds together so that we, the citizens, can buy that and they can get their infrastructure. Why are we going helter-skelter looking for loans? We got money. Let us participate in making that happen for the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sherry. Great ideas. Let me go to Dorothy Gordon.
I need a clap on that.
Thank you.
Please switch on your mic. Better still, let me bring you one.
Hello?
Let me give you this.
Thank you. I'm sorry, but I don't have too many solutions for you. I have a few questions. I was really interested to listen to what I think was an excellent speech by the ministry, but you said that the cost of producing power in Ghana is higher than in our neighbors. Did you say that? So I want you to explain why that is, because for me that's fundamental. The second thing is, as a consumer, I think we also observed that we had a brief window where we actually had responses from our power company, and we have now gone back to a situation where everything is totally unreliable. and there's no transparency. For me, there's no excuse in this day and age why we don't have some kind of information, whether it's on a website or some other platform, which will tell us everywhere in Ghana that power is not working at any given time. Where is it that our distribution has failed? For example, I came here late because the traffic lights are not working, because power has gone down again. If you do have that kind of information, I shouldn't have to phone ECG and be told, oh, we did not know that there was no power in your area. Thank you for telling us. We will send somebody and I will call you to tell you when they will come. Of course, they never do call. And this is really affecting business, especially for tech companies. When you were listing the sectors that are dependent and which are going to grow our economy, tech companies are highly power dependent and they need reliable power. I was doing video conferencing today and my power fluctuations meant that actually I went onto my solar, because if I had been relying on ECG, I could not get a clear, I could not give my lecture. So please pay attention to these things. We want there to be a completely transparent situation. Tell us where the power is not working and explain why the power is not working. I just want to talk a little bit now about strategic autonomy. This is the buzzword in Europe at the moment. They realized with COVID that they were extremely vulnerable in some sectors. And one of the sectors that they are very vulnerable in is to do with batteries. I think there are a couple of Europeans here, and you know it. So they have a special drive to see how they can boost production of batteries within the European Union to reduce the dependency on from certain Asian countries. Why not Ghana? If really we're serious about renewables, you can energy, power fluctuation. And I talked about batteries. Yeah, but if we're serious about renewables, then probably we will have to develop some capacity to produce batteries locally. And let's think big. Let's look at the African market. Somebody has to do it. And I think that we could do it. Definitely solar works, but it's far too expensive. And then I'd like the ministry to also look at things. When you're looking at policy, which I used to teach in my youth, you cannot look at it in silos. You have to look at cross-sectoral policy implications. People don't want to register as SMEs because then they will be taxed. And if they are taxed, they can't survive. They are choosing not to be taxed, not simply because they prefer a more luxurious lifestyle, but for many of those small businesses, they are operating from hand to mouth. So you have to have some discussion with your people in other ministries to figure out how you are going to make it possible for somebody to register the meter in their house as a small business without getting into a whole circle of other implications in terms of going to register for VAT, blah, 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 blah. These are the things that they are avoiding, huh? And you have to be real about it. I'm really disappointed, Imani. You know I'm always talking to you about this. Yet again, another panel without women. Huh? Why? And meanwhile, if you're talking about who's using power, especially in the SME sector, you have to engage with those women. They are all organized in associations. If you say they're illiterate, you will find leaders who can talk to you. And if the ministry is not talking to them, you're not going to come out with any kind of viable solutions. You can't keep focusing on the high level of the economy if you want to develop. And we've seen what's happened. So many of the larger businesses in Ghana have already fallen by the wayside, if we put it very politely. So I want to understand, why is it that it costs more to produce power in Ghana? Why is it that my tech people are power refugees in Abidjan? Because they say costs are high, but it's dependable, so they can do business. I want to understand that. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this point, I'll let the minister answer the questions, and then Prof, I'll come to you and take another round of comments and questions.
Well, I guess that the reason why power is expensive in Ghana is well known to all of us here. We've signed expensive PPAs that needs to be paid for. You have excess capacity that you need to pay for. And so obviously that will translate to the price that a consumer pays. It's unfortunate, but that's where we are. And so we have to find ways to renegotiate some of those PPAs that we've signed, renegotiate some of the gas prices that goes to the production of the electricity downwards, so that we can have it reflecting at the consumer end. Yes, I mean, it beats me that what you notice, that we are unable to tell by the click of a button where power is on, where power is off, and what the reasons are. Of course, ECG requires a lot of investment in that space to be able to provide that kind of system. And the expectation would have been that, like Kofi said, when PDS became the operators of the distribution system, without any significant investment in there, we saw the improvement, the efficiency of the ECG staff. And interestingly, when the minister met them, the unions, at his initial meetings before he even took over, they themselves admitted that they prefer PDS operations than their current management. Because, of course, there were clear targets that were set, there were incentives that were provided for people to work. And that in itself drove them to deliver better than they're doing today. And so it is not in doubt that private sector participation is the way to go. And I'm clear in my mind, sitting in meetings with a minister who obviously is the man responsible, that we would go back there. Maybe not in the same shape as PDS was, but in smaller chunks where you do concessioning that ultimately would result in the same kind of efficiency that we all want in the power distribution space. Thinking big, I agree. Madam Dorothy Gordon, of course, she and I go some way back as well. But they all cost money. Bottom line, do we have the wherewithal to fund the kind of big thinking projects, innovations, interventions that would bring the kind of efficiency that we need? Kojo, when he was speaking earlier, made reference to the transmission lines, where over the years we've been transmitting on 33 kV, right? Moving it up to 161, 330. Cost money. Do we have the money as a nation to roll out a 40, 50-year infrastructure that obviously cannot deliver the efficiency that then leads to the losses in the space? So those are matters that we ought to avert our minds to as well when we are. Yes, Mamalu, I agree. Biomass, good. The initial investment outlay in all secondary schools will have to be borne by somebody. So if you have existing infrastructure in place and in the scale of things, you don't have excess funds to put in there, then question is, do you want to spend money there when you can use those resources to do something else? Because kids need toilets. Yes, I agree. But of course, putting in the infrastructure to generate the power costs money. And I don't know how much sitting here. Well, I don't know, but I'm saying that whatever it is, even if it costs 1 kobo, deploying it in all secondary schools will still require somebody making that money available. I'm saying that, yes, we are, as a ministry, in my statement, I indicated that let us begin the conversation. We are open to ideas. We are open to consider all the proposals that will come on board. And as and when, the resources allow us to roll some of these things out, I'm sure that it will be considered, and then, the savings that we've made from there would be used for other things. Yes, and Kofi, on the ENI Springfield issue, yes, I recognize that it's a very complex transaction. But obviously, the gas price that we are paying now is a function of the development cost. And so if we tie in the Springfield unitization and the cost of production would come down, then the expectation would be that that would also result in lower cost of the gas that we pay in the end. And so that's why the ministry is considering now that opportunity. And of course, now there's a new find in the Block 4, which also gives us an opportunity to also take a broad view of the issues in the Sankofa ENI field and see what it is that we can do to bring the cost of gas down. I believe that I've dealt with many of the issues, and even though I was not expecting to be at the receiving end of many of the questions, I'll try my best to deal with them as and when they come. Thank you.
Okay, Honorable, thank you. I'll be going to Prof, but on the biogas, per my personal experience, I have a background in building technology. I built a biogas system for an office building that has about 200 people. That was 3 years ago. It cost me only 14,000 cedis. It's functional. The one I built for my house, which provides gas to my kitchen now, moved in December 2020, spent 7,000 cedis on it. It's functional. And so if you calculate inflation and everything, let's say each school will take about $15,000 to build the biogas system plus the plumbing and everything. And that the savings you make in a year will be amazing.
Okay, well, let me quickly put in this. Okay, so any business, and you see, most people think that government has to spend money without being a business. Let's think of it in a business sense. So I'm a businessman. Mm-hmm. If I want to invest in schools, what is the return on investment? Have you done that calculation?
We know.
No, it doesn't. You see, the cost is this. You need to find out how much savings you are making. So you're going to use biogas with the initial investment to produce electricity. Otherwise, he will not have to be on the grid. So what is the ratio of the savings I'm making using biogas to generate electricity vis-a-vis not paying ECG?
Sherry, please permit me to answer this.
You
I was at
answer
Swedro
it,
Senior
and
High School a month ago.
I'm ready to help you answer
to look at their kitchen.
Okay.
They cook with palm kernels, and they have fans that blow air into the cooker to get the kernels to go, right? Now, in the kitchen area alone, they told me they were spending close to 3,000 cedis a month on electricity. Electricity for the kitchen area, including their fridges, right? Per my calculation, if you are to invest in a proper biogas system for these schools, minimum 2 years. I'm not much of an energy expert, but based on what I have in the office I work in that I built and what I have in my house, it makes economic sense.
No, in 2 years, the money will be recovered.
It will be recovered and you have the system working for you.
Yeah, but you are not looking at it from the point of view of the investor.
Yes.
Right now, it's very complicated to get involved with a school for any reason. That's a fact. And we know this from those who try to provide internet for schools. So he's a private business person. He wants to get involved in providing biomass facilities to 20 schools. He has to go to the ministry. Let's give him 1 year lead time for that negotiation. Now, many of the schools do not pay their electricity bills at all. This is what I've heard. There's a long delay. So they are coming in and they're being asked, let's say we go to the PTA, we are negotiating with them and we say, PTA, help us meet some of the upfront costs. And then they do the analysis. We're not paying much now, huh? But we are going to mobilize money to do upfront costs. We are not saying it's a bad idea. We are saying this idea needs to be really thought out, because perhaps the solution is not for government to do this, but to provide the framework that will allow private sector partners and local private sector partners to get involved. And
Exactly.
that's going to take a lot of time, and we need the Ministry of Education to be part of the discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dorothy. Now, the other one which I want to make an intervention before I move to Prof. and Sherry is Dorothy asked why we cannot have any prompt to tell us you have power today, you don't have power tomorrow. You are in the office and you don't have power in your home. You should be able to get a text message so that if you want to stay longer. We know there are challenges with electricity generation and DUMSO and all those. And the minister said it's going to take a lot of investment to do that.
It's an app.
On this call as well, based on what we know, all the telcos have cell sites all over the country. Their primary source
It's
of
an
electricity is the grid. When the grid goes off, their cell sites go off. It's a primary source of collecting information for such a system. We have smart meters all around us.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's a system that if we really want to do this, we can do it, so that we do not walk around our daily schedules without knowing whether we have power at home, whether we have power at the office, when we are getting power. All those things, I think, Mr. Minister, could be done. So let's look at that. Sherry, I'll give you 30 seconds and I'll go to Prof. Bobkin. So you have 30 seconds and I'll go to Prof. Bobkin. Then I'll go
Same
around.
thing that you're just talking about was the team that was a part of the Negawatt competition. They developed an app that would help with knowing what areas were on and what areas were off. Unfortunately for them, I won, because that was an amazing idea. They came up with it and it was excellent. And you know, what happened to that? So again, we have people with solutions to that problem. It's an app. It's really, just like you said, we have cell sites that will give that data, and everybody would be able to know what's going on in even a real-time situation. It's an app. Let's get our young people to develop that, because they can. Thank
Okay.
you.
Prof, I know you've wanted to make an intervention all along. Please go ahead.
Okay, hello. All right, thank you very much. I just want to make one, and then the other one will follow. Honorable Deputy Minister, respectfully, I want to submit that money is not Ghana's problem. Money is not Ghana's problem. The challenges we have in the energy sector has nothing to do with money. A country that could sign IPPs with excess capacity charges to the tune of $12 billion by 2023, money is not that country's problem. You have to convince me why money is the problem. If you could waste, if such level of waste and inefficiency could be accommodated, money is not your problem. It's leadership, it's attitude, it's corruption, it's selfishness that has brought us here. Let's not deceive ourselves that Ghana needs more money to solve this problem we are talking about here. We need a certain radical leadership that deals with corruption in the same shape it appears. You know, you mentioned the PDS issue, right? And we're told that they did not make any initial investment. And then what happened? We saw what happened, right? With that leadership. That was what happened. Because you see, if you exit this box room and you talk about investors and all of them, they see this level of inefficiency, all of that, it's scary. It's scary. And then we also know from basic economics that you see, at a certain level of inefficiency, you can't talk about pricing. You can't talk about affordability. You can't talk about reliability. So here we are talking about access to affordable energy to support economic growth at a certain generation losses transmission losses, distribution losses that makes pricing practically useless. We can't be talking about that. Because to the business people, you see, we are linking this to economic growth and job creation. To the economic agents, they don't know how a megawatt looks like. And they are not interested in seeing how it looks like. They are interested in seeing that power is reliable, it's affordable, baseline. But we also do know that where we are, it will not take only government to bridge the financing gap. That collaboration with private sector only thrives on the basis that government investment in the initial investment in the sector is at a certain efficiency level. And they come to complement. Why are we getting it wrong? We are talking about giving cheap electricity also to businesses and households. That will not work. Do you know why? Because you first have to guarantee a certain threshold of reliability and affordability both to households and then businesses, and then you can do discrimination. Other than that, you are introducing arbitrage in the sector. You will see how people will behave. Because households and SMEs are practically inseparable. The problem is us. Over the years, and it's not only in the energy sector, Honorable. You see, it is fair for me to stop here. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, before you go on, I know the minister is more than capable of defending himself and the government, but let me make a small correction. You see, we tend to put monies that reports keep saying that if nothing is done, we are going to lose this amount of money in this year. Our friends in the media are here. The next minute, they will now put it out there that government has lost this money. Meanwhile, it is money that if nothing is done, it will be lost.
Yeah, you got it, yeah.
Okay, so let's do that right. The amount you put out there is if nothing is done, that amount of money will be lost at a certain date. So it's not money that had already been lost. Let's correct that. So it's better for everybody.
When I talked about up to 2023, that gives you a certain impression, right? You see, in capital budgeting, your capital cost should not arrive too early, too late.
No, I agree. Look, I've read the same report you've read. All I'm saying is that it's a projection that if nothing is done, there's a trajectory that our indebtedness in the energy sector is going on.
We are paying,
if nothing is done,
are we not paying?
well, but let me also put a point to that. See, there is this reserve margin conversation. Look, and we should have a conversation on this. There is enough time. There is this reserve margin conversation. When ECG did a presentation to the Mines and Energy Committee in Parliament, they honestly said that, look, PULC have to now go ahead and factor in at least 20% reserve margin in our tariffs because somebody has to pay for that. We need to run an efficient system whereby we need about 20% reserve margin. As we speak, nobody pays for that. So if for today, we have 743 megawatts, okay, 721 megawatts, depending on what you want your basically your demand is. 20% of that has to be reserve margin. That is something that we need to keep in place year on year. Who pays for that 20% reserve margin? As we speak, it's not in our tariffs. So if you bombard it out there as money that government is losing, you can't run an efficient system without that reserve margin. So somebody has to pay for it. So let's, going forward, have a very good conversation. I know Kofi has his own thought on that. And we can all go back and forth on why and how, as a nation, we would treat that 20% reserve margin because somebody has to pay for it.
Okay, thank you very much,
I think
Kojo. Minister, you want to say something? Charles will speak. I'll come to Minister. I know there are lots of people here as well who want to speak, comment, or questions. And I don't want the conversation to be to remain here. So Charles, please go ahead. Then I'll come to Minister, and then I'll come to you, sir.
Okay, so I think that the issue about reserve margins and all of that can be built into our cost, but that doesn't really solve the problems that we are talking about. Prof highlighted a certain problem that concerns the wastage in the system. And if you begin to put numbers to it, you realize the impact of the wastage on consumers and even on how much we are paying as our tariff. Now, if you consider the PULC tariff even for 2021, we have an average distribution, the one that goes to the distribution sector, it's about 30%, 30.9% that goes to it. And then out of the 30%, 14% is being used to recover distribution losses. That means that if they are receiving 30 pesos tariff, about almost 48% of that tariff is being used to recover distribution losses. If you go to the transmission, who is receiving about 6 or 7 pesos, about 1.9 pesos, which is about 28%, is being used to recover transmission losses. Now, this is the situation of the wastage that is in the system. We talked about PDS being able to recover when PDS came. So why is it that when ECG came back, such situations are not happening? How can't our energy sector institutions, our energy SOEs really function as a business? Because if you go further and you look at some of these SOE reports that are coming out, you realize that the net losses or the net profits that is being churned out by these SOEs on the energy sector is about a loss of 3 billion for just the year 2018 alone. So you see that generally we have a bigger problem with our finances, a bigger problem with how we are managing the energy sector SOEs, and how we are not treating these businesses, these sectors as a business, and we are allowing the politics of the day to really interfere into the management, whereas we could have done so much to really reduce the amount of wastage that is within the system. And if you're able to do that, a lot of the situations with excess, situations with high cost of power generation and all that can be avoided.
Thank you, Charles. Honorable, we wanted to react.
Yeah, Charles, and I like the admonition that many a time then we allow the politics to take over, and then that scatters the issues and we all sweep it under the carpet. But you see, the truth of the matter is this, that many of the problems that we are having to deal with today are historical. Of course, we're having a side discussion here with Franklin on the LNG, which is essentially new, okay, that in the short term may impact how much government will have to pay. But it all comes down to the reliability issues that the West African gas pipeline experience that we had, that then led to us going to develop Sankofa, when in fact they told us, even before we executed the agreements, that look, if we develop this field, it's going to be expensive. We proceeded to do it. And we are having to bear the brunt today. But like Kojo said, this energy sector recovery program that was rolled out, that then spells out clearly the kinds of things that we need to do so that we do not get to the 12.3 billion by 2023. It's being implemented. Yes, you may say that because there's sanctity of contract and people are not prepared to renegotiate contracts that binds the state, we're having difficulties in some of the renegotiation. Absolutely. And of course, yes. And so then you are saddled with the situation where you have to make a choice between terminating some of them now, picking the tab, or I didn't get that. Absolutely. The contracting party also has to play a role. Yes, I agree. But the issue is with us, and we need to deal with them. And so we are not checking out. We're saying that, yes, we're going to confront them head on, because we cannot continue to give excuses like Kofi said. I agree. We have to take the bull by the horn and make sure that we do not get to the 12.5 billion that is being projected if we do not do anything. And rest assured, one of the reasons why the Honorable Minister was unable to attend was because of the energy sector task force that we're meeting in the Jubilee House this afternoon. No, I know. That's why I said that I won't go to the political bit. I agree. So that's why I won't do the politics. That's what I enjoy most, but I won't do it here. Because we have real issues that we need to deal with. And I'm happy that we engage and dispassionately find a solution to some of the problems that are historical, really. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, your name, introduce yourself.
Okay, Dr. Rivers Nopong, Ghana Gas Commercial Manager in terms of economic feasibility. And I'm very happy to be here enjoying the non-political but technical conversation. And should I mark the 3 basic elements of energy, being affordability, availability, and sustainability. I'll mark for Ghana availability close to 5-star, because you understand that availability is not the issue. I'll give 80%. That's generation. Generation. Yes. I'll get there. I'll get there. Then that's the sustainability part, where it will drop, because getting to the end user due to distribution and transmission losses are there. Then for affordability, we all understand that it's far low in terms of percentages. But I have some key point here that I'd like to address, even though some comments have been made already. When we look at the gas master plan, since Deputy Vice Chair mentioned, the gas master plan had a key component as far as economic is concerned to determine the gas price using the net back. And I asked myself, when negotiating for the Sankofa gas price, what was wrong if we could fall on the net back gas formula? Again, in our minds, we have an idea of how much we require as electricity cost, or that's the selling price of electricity. We could work back and estimate how much the cost of gas could be. Honorable Minister just stated, and it's true, we have had a first engagement with Sankofa partners, and it's true, they are really willing to negotiate, because they understand that the gas price is high. I believe in the next 2 weeks, we are going to have our second time meeting with them. And I believe, according to from the minister, he has given us 1 month to give him a report on that. All that has to be looked at. But looking at ECG collection rate, that's another issue that brings a lot of debt into the energy sector. From what I said at the ESRP, or what I call the Energy Sector Recovery Program, month on month, at the gas clearinghouse meetings, we come up with how much collection rate, and then even the weighted average cost of gas cost, because month on month, we realized that the WACOG is more than what PRC had, published. So then there's a margin there, and aside the collection rate. If I'm not mistaken, it's between 50 to 60% collection. You understand? So who pays the rest? You send the report to Minister of Finance. Now with the gas clearinghouse model, for Minister of Finance to pay for the Sankofa price on behalf of GMPC, and there's a bit of complaint. So then the illegal connections. I believe we all know where they are. As far as, ECG knows where the illegal connections are. If there's a way the government can help put a stop to that, I think that will also help a lot. Then ECG now complains a lot in our recent meetings on competition between the private sector. We all believe that PPP is the way. Private-public partnership is the idea. And then they would mention that the private power generators, like the likes of Gensa, are competing with their bulk purchases, like the mining companies. You understand? And then this is a subsector that's not regulated by PRC. So they go to the mining sector. Hey, you're buying it at, let's say, $S from ECG. I can give you 50%. So, moving forward, if there could be any kind of collaboration or that sector being regulated, I think that would also help. Yeah. Okay. Then, as far as, like you mentioned, you have the big gas and the small gas. And I really like the way you mentioned the small gas as far as automobile is concerned. We have had, I think the Honorable Minister mentioned that, we have had companies coming from Egypt trying to do the CNG with us. Again, Ghana has signed on the SGD Goal 7, making sure that we zero our CO2 emission. And I believe that in the future, when we're able to sign on the CNG, we can have some automobile using the CNG as a source of fuel. First of all, it's cheaper, and then it's good for the engines. So this is our end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doc. So this is what I'm going to do. It's almost 5:15, so we are going to spend the next 5 minutes to wrap up. I was hoping if any other person wants to pass a comment or a quick question, I'll allow that, and then I'll come back for just a quick round of last words from my lead discussants and other people, then wrap up. So final question from the back, then wrap up. So Kofi, I know you wanted to react to Doc, everything, just put everything together because you have 1 minute each to wrap up. Please go ahead.
My name is Michael, and I'm coming from cocoa processing. So, so far it's been policy, and I would want to bring you down to what happens also in the industry. Because I'm coming from a place where we pay about 1.2 million Ghana cedis per month only for electricity. Mr. Minister, in the past, we used to pay something that they call maximum demand, although for some time now it has been cancelled. And then anytime you do ask, what is it for? They tell you that this money is what they use to, if you like, replenish or rebuild the structure that you have put your load on. And as we speak, if you also look at the tariff build-up, there is something that they called, many tariffs, the energy sector recovery levy, and many others. So if we do not have efficient system, and we are paying for losses, call it transmission, distribution, commercial, 25-point-something%. What was those monies used for? Because we expect that those monies will be used to rebuild our network. My point number 2 is bulk purchase. Per the standing of Energy Commission, if you consume 0.5 megawatts per month, then you are classified as a bulk customer, so you can have a license and then purchase electricity as a bulk customer. But point is that people are already located in existing distribution network, which would make it difficult for them to, say, negotiate with, if you like, VRE and Gridco to buy the power directly from Gridco and then transmit through their own lines. But there are a lot of frustrations if you want to use the existing distribution network as a bulk customer. What is the ministry doing about this? And then the minister said that as we stand, we have excess or unused capacity. So our hope and prayer is that, and we are paying for it, he said so. Our hope and prayer is that we would not go for additional power agreement and then build any other infrastructure. Because I've forgotten the name, he said, we need 20% reserve margin. Who is paying for it? I'm saying that the customer is paying for it now because at the moment, we are paying 25+% to the generators, transmitters, and then the distributors. So that money is being paid for. West Africa Gas Pipeline, in fact, some years ago, I am also so much interested in gas because I've done a lot of work in transmission gas pipelines. When it came up, we were all interested. But now, in fact, if you come to my place, we really bought equipment, and they are now idle. Dryers, roasters. We were told that after the termination behind Valco, that's where they have the regulating and metering station, there will be secondary lines in the enclave. Nothing happened. It was continued to the thermal plant in Abwadi, and then it ended there. So equipment have been lying idle till date from 2006. So whether we are going to vaporize liquefied natural gas and use it or not, what we are saying is that the West Africa gas pipeline didn't help us. So there should be an alternative so that those of us who have spent money into buying equipment, we will make use of it.
Okay.
To talk about a small gas, I have a lot, but let me
give you 15 more seconds.
Let
because
me
we're
land
running
here.
out of time.
There is this, you see, if estate developers are building new estates, do not worry at all. All what you need to do is to set up a tank farm. And then it's a very good business idea. Run the copper pipelines through everywhere in the enclave. Put meters there, and nobody will own a cylinder. I have a very good paper on that, and if you want us to talk about it, we can discuss it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for bringing the industry perspective into the conversation. We are wrapping up. We were supposed to end at 5 p.m. We started a bit late, so I just want us to close early. And so I'll start with final comments. I'll start with Hugh Kofi, and I'm giving each of you 45 seconds. It's metered. Then I'll come to Prof, because I know you wanted to react to certain things. I'll come to Charles. I'll come to Kojo. Then the Honorable Deputy Minister. And then later, Denis Asari will give us the closing remarks. So, Kofi.
Thank you. So, Mr. Minister, this is not enough time to deal with energy. However, I wish to submit to you that when it comes to energy, unless the politicians are pushed, you don't tend to do much. I really wish to suggest to you that you have an energy roundtable once a quarter. Okay? I mean, there are groups like COSECA. You can invite Imani. It's very important for us to talk through these things and more or less equip you guys into doing things, because there's so many things going around. So the quarterly energy roundtable is crucial, and you can start dealing with the issues of gas. The issue about affordability, reliability, I started in my earlier remarks and said that these are more important than affordability is not as important as availability and reliability. And there is this concept of energy refugee. It's extremely important that you keep it in mind always. We have lost businesses in Ghana to neighboring countries. I think Dorothy mentioned it, right? Now, that should tell you that affordability is never an issue because they are paying more. Reliability and availability is an issue, even to the poorest persons. So, if you say we have more than we need in terms of capacity and we are paying for it, we shouldn't have had the doomsday that we recently had. So please, we need to do something in terms of that. Now, let me go to something that you can actually do. And if you don't do, we would all know that it is some sort of leadership lack. Cylinder recirculation model. It's been 5 years. There is no good reason why. It would affect this issue we are discussing right now, so please, somebody should get into it. There is something else that can be done, but again, we can use the roundtable to discuss it, the biogas issue. People do it every day, and it's been shown to you that it is not that expensive. Indeed, your ministry has a whole department on renewables. The gentleman there is called Wisdom Togobo. He has all the data. He's one of the experts in this area in West Africa. He can tell you how this can be done. So we need to do that. ECG privatization, let us know what your plans are. It is not good enough that we all don't know what is going on. And like you said, the workers themselves, I used to represent them. They will tell you that they used to like that. All around, it's a better arrangement for all of us. So please. And then think through this. VARCO no longer makes sense. VARCO no longer makes sense. We have an emotional attachment to VARCO. We should break it and move on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I subscribe to the quarterly roundtable with clear benchmarks that we are working towards. Exactly a week today, I was in Abuja and I understood what energy is. So, but they are not a good benchmark, isn't it? So we should be looking at ours. I think this is very important because we are talking about the AFCFTA and private sector competitiveness. And all of these conversations is actually an input to economic agents. So we should be looking at reducing their input costs so that we can support their competitiveness. That is where the job creation will come. If we don't, Ghanaians are still going to be unemployed, even if they studied employment in the university. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Charles.
Okay, so although we had limited time, but I can also make these suggestions. I think that the first one is efficiency is key, and the need to tackle the wastage that is within our systems is very opportune. And then one other thing is that the issue of debt accumulation cannot be solved if you continue to levy the consumer, considering this levy and that levy, trying to really solve the debt accumulation issue, unless we begin to take the bull by the horn and tackle the root cause of the problem, which still has got to do with efficiency. So we should look at what we can do to bring in the investment in reducing our technical, and then really consider the need for a robust way for our energy sector institutions to run as a business in reducing the wastage that exists in the system. And also with supply planning. We've always planned, as Kofi said, we've always planned with sometimes Valco operating at 2 port lines, but for the past years, it has always been operating under capacity. So we should begin to consider how we do our sectoral planning so that we can really understand the real demands and then begin to project our supplies to it.
Well, I would have to disagree with Kofi on VACO not making sense. As a businessman, when we are trying to do industrialization, let's not throw away the kid with the bathwater because there are issues in the sector. VACO can work if government is dedicated to making VACO working. You cannot push for the level of industrialization that we want if you say that you should throw away VACO. There's a reason why we have VACO. And we have all the resources, the manganese and the whatnot that we want to do have a value chain. Aluex doesn't work because VACO doesn't work. If you look at the number of jobs that a functional VACO will provide, if you look at the opportunities that a functional VACO will provide, it's just that there are issues within the sector. How do you give the 3.5 cents to VACO to work? That is the issue. It's not a matter of VACO cannot work. I don't think we should now throw the kid away with the bathwater. My second statement will be to the man from CPC. I think with the CPC operates on 33 kV lines. So what it means is that you take power from ECG. You cannot take power at 161 to step it down with your own transformer. So you cannot take power from VRA and all the other the Gencos. So you have to now wheel it through the distribution lines. It means that your negotiation for bulk customer will have to be with ECG, not with the direct Genco. The only way that is happening now is Newmont and VRA, and even that ECG is challenging it because they think that it's not right for within their concession for Newmont, okay, to wheel directly from VRA to them, which is within their distribution. So that is something that I think if your company is really interested in doing bulk consumer, also being a bulk customer, you should talk more to ECG to get what you can get from them. Yeah, but what I'm saying is that you still have to go through ECG. You can't deal directly with a Genco. You have to wheel it through the distribution because you have to pay the distribution service charge. That is why you have to go through ECG for your bulk customer. It's the issue. The only exemption is Newmont, who wheel directly from VRA, which even ECG is contesting that you cannot let Newmont wheel directly from VRA without going through the concessionaire, who is ECG. So you being in Tema, your bulk customer negotiation will have to be done with ECG. Then they will now sell you the power at the retail end, not you dealing directly with a Genco.
But the point is that if you have your own transmission line from the takeoff point to your substation, then the ECG network is out of this equation. So you can negotiate with VRA or any of the generators because Gridco, in any case, will take from any of them. and then you take it through the transmission. You only pay the transmission charges, and then you pay the power as well. So ECG will be out. But like I said, the point is that if you want to use the existing ECG network as a bulk customer, there is a lot of frustration. That's why I said, what is the stand of Minister on that one?
Well, I guess that the position of the ministry really is to discourage the use of consumers taken directly from the generating companies. If you are at the downstream end, then you need to take your power from ECG. Obviously, because of the tariff structure, that then makes industry tariffs relatively higher. So the ministry is looking at a review of the tariff structure that then makes industrial use much more affordable than residential use. Because as it stands now, tariff structure is in bands. So you go 0 to 50, you pay X amount, 50 to 100, you pay an incremental amount, 100 plus, you pay in that band. We think that the way to go is to use the fuel station approach, where if you go in there and you buy 1 gallon for 2 Ghana cedi, you buy 1,000 gallons, you still pay 2 Ghana cedi for a gallon, and not an incremental tariff because you are consuming more. We think that if we go that route, it would lead to a significant reduction in electricity tariff for industrial consumers. So that's where we're going to go. Energy roundtable, by all means, like I said, my minister is open to engage positively with civil society organizations so that we can all together find ways at resolving, if not all, many of the problems within the space. CRM, by all means, I guess that the minister was categorical when we experienced the most recent doomsaw. That is not because of want of power, but there were transmission issues that necessarily needed some work on. And so we're dooming to CC as opposed to the doomsaw that we Prof, I get the point that you make. And on the VALCO issue, so if you suggest that VALCO is no longer useful, then is it by extension you suggesting that all the things I want to do in the bauxite space are all unnecessary? Because it's an entire value chain that government intends to build. And so we're looking at how we get tariffs, particularly industrial tariffs, low, so that the integrated aluminum industry that I want to build becomes something that we realize. Energy sector, yes, efficiency is always key. And like I said, the ministry's position is that the ECG PSP may be not in the same form as PDS took, but definitely a private sector intervention so that we can drive the efficiency in the sector. It's unfortunate that when private people own businesses, Ghanaian private people own businesses, they make profits. They drive efficiency. But the very moment you put those same people in charge of state-owned enterprises, then it becomes an issue where everybody thinks that those entities ought to make losses. Timetable. Well, I'm not in a position to provide that at this point because my mandate does not extend to that. These are policy decisions that the minister would have to go to cabinet and get some approval before it's rolled out. But like I said, from where I sit, all the conversations that I've been in, that is his inclination. And indeed, he indicated it in the statement that I read on his behalf, that we are going to go there. And rest assured that that's what's going to happen. Yes, I guess that I've dealt with almost all of the issues that were raised. Now, thank you all for your contribution.
Thank you very much. A round of applause to all the discussants and all of you. It's been a good conversation. And as suggested, 2 hours is not enough to deal with all our issues. So Honorable Minister, quarterly conversations on the energy sector. You said yes, so we'll hold you to it. Yes, and we'll be reminding you regularly to set this up. We have a lot to do in this space. Thank you all very much. We'll have the closing remarks from Denis Asari. He's an energy policy analyst with Imani. Denis will give us the closing remarks, and we'll wrap up. Denis.
Thank you very much. I think this has been a very insightful conversation, and I believe that the general consensus is that it has become imperative that as a country we take affordable energy and access very seriously because it affects every aspect of our lives. Additionally, I think the conversations today have also re-echoed the need for us as a country to look at what are the possible pathways for us to deliver a very competitive energy prices that in all the modelings and all the policy framework, we think about inclusivity, and that if we would want to ensure economic growth and create more jobs and drive industrialization, as this government wants to do, then we need to look at how do we make our energy sector very efficient and very competitive. So with that, I would like to say a very big thank you to the Honorable Deputy Energy Minister for sharing his insightful thoughts and government's commitment with us. Again, I want to also thank our panel, Mr. Kofi Bento, thank you very much for coming. Charles, thank you very much for showing up. And Mr. Kojopoku, thank you very much. We are very grateful. And I must mention our deep sense of gratitude to all the participants who shared a part of their evening with us. We are very grateful. We hope that the conversations will not end in this room, that it will go further to influence government policy and ensure that overall, by 2030, as a country or the years ahead, we can deliver a very efficient energy sector that drives inclusive growth through access to electricity and ensure that the 15% of our population who still don't have access to electricity have electricity at the cheapest price and ensure that our industries are very competitive. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you very much. We've come to the end of today's event. I don't know whether this is a fair prayer. I pray that your power stays on throughout the year for making it here. Even when your neighbor's power is off, I pray that yours stays on miraculously. Enjoy your evening.